Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're going to talk about rising action. So as you know, we've already talked about characters, we've talked about setting, and we talked about exposition or the introduction to the characters. Now we're going to talk about rising action, and the rising action includes all of the events that lead up to the climax. So if we go back again to our example of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the moment that Harry Potter leaves his house and he goes to Hogwarts, that's all rising action. So all of those events, like him joining the Quidditch team, him learning about the stone, and his journey and his obstacles in order to get the stone, that is all of the rising action. And in between then, as he meets people, we begin to have conflict. And there's a couple key types of conflict that we see in stories. And the first one is character versus character. So this would be, the good guy versus the bad guy. So the conflict between Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy, or Harry Potter and Voldemort. So this involves two or more characters that have a problem with one another. The next kind that we see is character versus nature. So this could be any type of nature, including animals. So if you think about Jaws, a group of men versus this gigantic shark. Or, the End of Days movie when the earth is falling apart, or they have to go into a volcano, or whatever that might be. So it's sometimes you have a character versus nature, all right? Sometimes we have characters versus society. So this is when a character fights against the rules of society. So, if you think back of the women's movement, or institutionalized racism in the South, or even the North for that matter. So anytime that a character fights against the majority of what society believes. And then the last one would be character versus self, all right? So this is when they have an internal struggle, a struggle on the inside. And this is usually with a moral judgment of some type, right? Now, after we have the rising action, and we have this conflict, then comes what we call the climax. And this is the high point of the story. This is the turning point. This is where things change. Typically in action movies, this is when the buildings fall down and the cars blow up and the high-speed car chase happens. All right. This is also when the main characters change in some way. Then we come to falling action, and this is when all the loose ends of the plot are tied up. The conflict and the climax are taken care of. Right? So this is slowly, when Harry Potter then, meets back up with Ron, and they have lunch together, and after, Quirrell turns out that it's Voldemort, and he understands who it is, and he finds his place in the world. So this is falling action, and in the end, we have resolution. So it comes to a reasonable ending. So this is every Disney film, and they lived happily ever after. Or in Harry Potter, at the very last one, when they send their kids off to Hogwarts. Okay? So basically, when we put this all together, we have exposition and rising action, which are the beginning of the stories. Then we have the climax, which is the middle of the story. And then we have falling action and resolution, which conclude the story. Right? So you are going to be doing the same when you develop your story. Right? So just as a real quick quiz, and you can send me these answers, would you say that a static character remains the same, is changed, or is the main character? So number one, is that A, B, or C? And you are more than welcome. You're more than welcome to, what I want you to do is just put your post to me in a private comment. Second one, the main character of the story is usually the antagonist, the protagonist, or the exposition. The main character is usually the antagonist, the protagonist, or the exposition. Number three, the part of the story that ties up all of the loose ends and takes care of the conflict. Is this the climax, the falling action, or the resolution? And finally, the setting. Is the setting made up of the protagonist and the antagonist, the place and the characters, the time and the place, or static and dynamic? So again, all I want you to do is just type your answers to me and send them to me in a private comment. So, all right, again, I appreciate everything. Thanks, guys. Bye.